What is up, guys? My name is Andy, and I am so pumped. FIFA 18 is right around the corner. I know everyone is excited right now. I'm going to be telling you about the beta. I originally did not get an invite to the beta, actually, but I had a friend reach out to me. His handle is here. Huge shout out. He asked if I got a code. I did not. He gave me his code because he was not in the US or UK, so he could not participate. So huge shout out. Thank you so much for the code. That way now I can tell all you guys about the gameplay tweaks, the audio design, some of the visual, different graphical designs. It's kind of how everything's looking so far. One thing I do want to say is don't take everything I say as gospel. EA is definitely going to change plenty about the game from here until launch. So, don't let this dissuade you from buying the game or convince your purchasing habits in any way. This is just for entertainment purposes to let you know some of the changes and at least just get my interpretation. Also, I want to note that EA forbids people from sharing the video from the gameplay for the beta. You might see some people posting, but a lot of those people are getting banned, in a lot of trouble. So you'll just see some of the gameplay trailers here, but don't leave just because you're not going to see gameplay, because I'm going to be getting pretty in-depth into all the different changes. So getting into what everyone cares about most, the gameplay. So starting out overall, the gameplay felt a lot slower. There seems to be more frames and player movement, which makes the more natural looking during all the animations, but as a result, it's a little more slow and more methodical. Overall, this leads to play on the pitch looking a lot more realistic though. Silver players move noticeably slower than gold players, and then of course bronze players were even slower than silvers. Their movement on the ball is not as responsive, but not in a way that shows delay. In previous FIFAs, players could mainly move the same way, but the stats would govern how well their actions would play out in terms of passing and shooting, etc. FIFA 18 seems to try and show how these differently skilled players will act on the ball based on their overall acumen playing the sport. This pushes towards more of a realistic feel, I think. As a fan of New York City Football Club in MLS and Manchester City in the Premier League, I can easily see how much sharper and more confident the players are in the Premier League. So this is really showing the difference of skill that you would see kind of in the real-life dichotomy of different leagues. So, another big thing, small and quick players feel noticeably different than larger lumbering ones. This is true for players both on and off the ball. Raheem Sterling, for example, feels incredibly responsive with reckoning pace, while Vincent Kompany is slow and not very maneuverable, albeit he did feel much more powerful to compensate. Kevin De Bruyne, for instance, is appropriately somewhere in between the two players. I'm very happy to see these changes have been made in FIFA 18. In past years, center-backs would be able to keep pace with the fastest players on the pitch. Players appear to be more reflective of their real-life abilities, rather than everyone being the same player with tweaked stats and a different coat of paint. Now getting into some specifics, talking about passing now. Passing feels good in FIFA 18. Now the ball usually goes where you want, which I found was not always the case in FIFA 17. You'd have your intended target and it would go to someone completely different, usually resulting in a bad turnover. Passing is also a lot more realistic in that there's a better chance that your players will make a bad pass or a bad touch if you're trying to play tiki-taka with fast-driven passes, which was highly abused in FIFA 17. First-time passes will not always hit your intended target if the pass is coming in with a lot of pace, so you may want to take a touch before passing to your next player. Now this helps replicate matches in real life, I find. In FIFA 17 the ball would be zipping around, players would make perfect touches every time, and that's just not the way that you see it in real life. One great passing change this year actually happens when you do a first touch through ball pass. The player will flick the ball into the path of the intended player rather than doing the regular pass animation. The way that the ball comes off of their foot looks very lifelike and makes it more satisfying when you're able to pull it off. This will make play in the final third extremely exciting, especially when doing 1-2 passes. So that was pretty much about regular passing, regular through balls. Now, threaded through balls are absolutely deadly this year. Maybe too much as far as the beta is concerned anyway. Pacey wingers will breeze by defenders with ease. I even had a few cases where I would do a threaded through ball from around midfield that would split the center back and fullback. My winger would run outside of the fullback and catch it with the ball after it had passed the back line, resulting in a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. The effectiveness of these passes, I'm sure, will be balanced for their full release. A human player may also be able to cut out the pass while the computer-controlled players wouldn't, but this is something we're going to see how it goes through. Overall, though, through balls have been greatly fixed. When performing a through ball in FIFA 17, your player would often touch the ball as it got to them, which would slow it down and let defenders catch up. In these cases, you would have actually preferred the player to let the ball go past, which would allow them to outpace the defenders and catch up to the pass for a breakaway. In the beta, players do not make this same mistake. They will let the ball roll ahead so that they can properly utilize their pace. It works great for slower, more powerful players like Harry Kane or Lewandowski as well. The ball will go past the runner and the defenders, then your runner will shield the defender from getting to the ball using their strength to retain possession. So this makes pacey strikers and slower, more powerful strikers both take advantage of kind of the new mechanics when it comes to the through balls. Crossing has definitely gone under some changes this year. The usual button presses and button modifiers have all been changed. A standard cross will be sent into the box with one tap of the cross button. 2 taps in a row will now do a low-driven ground pass. This used to be done by triple tapping the button. There is no longer a cross type tied to the triple button press. I definitely like this change since it's much easier to send a low pass across the box. I'm sure we've all experienced the button delay issues in FIFA 17 of pressing the cross button 3 times but it only registering 1 or 2 presses. More often than not, the player that you want to be targeted will also be the recipient. The player targeting is much better. In FIFA 17, this could often be unpredictable, which will lead to some very strange passes that ruined a great goal-scoring opportunity. So now the modifiers are still the left and right bumper buttons. Pressing the L1 or left bumper along with the cross button will result in a high lob cross that will hang in the air for a while. This is convenient if you want to do a cross over the top from a far distance. The best utility I found is when your winger has the ball and there's a defender in between your winger and your striker who's running into the box. This lob cross will allow you to send the ball over the head of the defender, allowing your striker to attack the goal. FIFA 17, your only option in this scenario was to do a regular cross, which was almost always tracked down by the defender due to the low trajectory of the pass. Pressing the R1 or right bumper along with the cross button will result in a lower driven cross with pace. So far, most of my attempts have led this pass to being very similar to the double tap ground cross. I believe that the intent of this pass is to mimic the lower trajectory double tap that was utilized in FIFA 17. This will likely be updated and have a bit more height as EA tweaks the mechanics before release. Now, in terms of dribbling, it definitely feels different in FIFA 18, but that's mainly due to the general movement notes I had made earlier in the video. Players act on the ball in congruence with their agility and overall skill. Nimble players are a hell of a lot of fun to control. One of the best parts is that you can just control the players by dribbling regularly with the left analog stick. Holding the two triggers together will still initiate face-up dribbling for skill dribbling, but it's less zippy and spastic as it was in FIFA 17. I think the new dribbling being more responsive will prevent people from spamming face-up dribbling this year, especially because it feels like face-up dribbling with the skill dribbling has overall been nerfed a bit. It is still effective, however. The variability in dribbling animations looks great too. Certain players really do have particular dribbling styles, and they're shown in this. This will help make players transcend their stats a bit this year. A player's dribbling style could be worth keeping over upgrading to another player who may have better stats, but is not as responsive to control on the ball. It's also nice that player movements make it easier to tell them apart on the pitch. In FIFA 17 at one point, I had Harry Kane, Gylfi Sigurdsson, and Aaron Ramsey on the pitch. It definitely was a bit difficult to tell them apart until they had the ball at their feet, and then of course the name would pop up above their player model. Skill moves still operate the same as in previous FIFAs. I have no problem with this. The skill maneuvers didn't have many issues in FIFA 17, other than the button delay wreaking havoc by not registering and just leaving your player standing out there like an idiot to have the ball stolen away. But overall, the skilling definitely feels much similar to FIFA 17. To be perfectly honest, I don't find much difference with the finishing in any large degree anyway. Low-driven ground shots still exist with the double tap of the shot button. Chips and finesse shots are the same as well. It's difficult to test out how long shots are against the computer. If you do them on lower difficulty settings, then you get tons of space to shoot, and they have a decent chance of going in, but that's because every shot pretty much goes in on the lower difficulty. On higher difficulties, it seems most long shots get blocked by defenders or defending midfielders, since the computer is so good at staying on your players. Playing real-life players will help establish how the finishing is different this year. Also, finishing is something that always goes so many changes, so banking how that will be in the final release is definitely the most difficult to forecast. Now onto defending. It might not be sexy, but it is extremely important in FIFA. Defending feels different since player movement overall feels different, and the jury is still out on whether or not this is an improvement, as far as I think anyway. The main improvements are that defensive players feel appropriately strong and aggressive when they need to. Your center backs will really throw their weight around, which feels satisfying when you win the ball back out of sheer force. Additionally, I spoke earlier about how pace and through balls are deadly, but luckily there is one tweak that can help combat this. If your defender was trailing in FIFA 17, then you could reach out a hand and try to slow them down by pulling on their jersey, but in all reality, all you were doing was either waiting to catch up based on your player's pace, or if possible, pulling the player down for a foul. However, in FIFA 18, if your defender is strong enough, then they will actually pull the offensive player back, which will then allow you to muscle them off further. It looks great, and it's definitely realistic in terms of a shirt pull that you would see in real life. This will be key for your fullbacks in FIFA 18 when trying to stop wingers in their tracks. The biggest thing everybody wants to know is about auto tackles. It is difficult to test this while playing the computer, but it seems like this isn't happening as often as it was in FIFA 17. If I don't select my player to intercept the ball, they likely won't do it, unless of course the ball goes right to their feet, but it seems like the auto tackles have been reduced. Now moving on to the visuals, starting with players. The players have been improved with regard to their models. Smaller players are both shorter and thinner than larger ones. The proportions seem more natural too, rather than just there being a slider that equally shifted height and width altogether. For instance, when Jerome Boateng pushes Dries Mertens off the ball, it looks very believable since their character models reflect their actual size difference and body proportions. Player faces are definitely improved, but this is not the case for everyone. For instance, they fixed Harry Kane's face. In FIFA 17, his lower lip was strangely tucked in and almost made it look like he was trying to eat the lower half of his face. If he appeared in your playthrough of The Journey, the Alex Hunter gameplay, then you know exactly what I'm talking about in that press conference. He looked so strange. Even some smaller market players look much better. Jack Harrison on NYCFC in MLS looks incredibly realistic. I guess EA figured they'd get ready now because you will be seeing him in Europe one day, and you'll want to play as him in FIFA, who knows, 23 or something like that. Some players have been neglected, however. Christian Pulisic on Dortmund still looks nothing like he does in real life. I figured that since he was a Team of the Season tournament giveaway last year in FIFA 17, they would have given him some better detail. Overall, though, the fact that they bothered to update some faces is encouraging. They could easily just have ignored this. So now in terms of how the crowd looks, EA has really been advertising how much better the crowd looks this season. When the crowd is shown specifically, they look great. The models are on par with the players on the pitch, actually. However, if there's a break in play due to a foul or ref showing a card, the crowd in the background looks pretty similar to FIFA 17, so it seems EA has decided to pick and choose when the crowd is upgraded looking. As far as during the match goes, the crowd appears to vary in terms of how active it will be. When the home team scores, the bulk of the crowd will celebrate, while they'll put their heads in their hands and lament if the visitors are the ones that are scoring. If you're playing with teams that are not in the same league, then the crowd is fairly generic and not all that animated. The home team won't show that many unique facets that are known to that stadium. This is definitely a disappointment, especially for those that pretty much only play Ultimate Team, but if you're still holding on to the days of yore and love playing Seasons or Career Mode, then these will definitely improve your experience. However, as I mentioned, if you do play between teams in the same league, then the atmosphere is vastly improved on. Fans will hold placards above their heads before the match, creating a sigil of the home team. Flags will be flying and fans will be cheering. It's a vast improvement. Fans will react differently based on the customs of those stadiums, or at least how EA has shown them in variability. Bayern Munich, for instance, fans have a ton of flags and banners waving the whole match, while players at Juventus at home, when you score a goal, the crowd behind the goal will all get out of their seats and rush forward to the front level. Seeing the crowd flying forward really pumps up the atmosphere and makes it difficult not for you to want to go jump in the crowd and celebrate. Speaking of jumping into the crowd, that is one of the many new celebrations in FIFA 18 for scoring a goal. If the stands are close enough to the pitch and there's no fence in the way, and you bring your goal scorer to the crowd, he will lean over and embrace them. All of the fans will be jumping up and down and will try to get a hand on the player to give him praise. More teammates will run over and celebrate with the crowd as well. The same animations will occur though regardless of where the stands are located, whether it's behind the goal or on the sideline. It seems that just running in, holding right trigger or left trigger are modifiers that can make the celebration a little different though. I found it didn't always work making these modifiers with the left and right trigger. Additionally, the crowd you jump into, although looks very lifelike, they're almost always wearing the same clothes. Guy in green sweatshirt and guy in t-shirt are always front and center, with a few fans wearing the same jersey on your team there as well. Perhaps this is just for the beta, but I hope that there would be different sections of the crowd that will at least show more variability in what they're wearing. No complaints though, this celebration is great and a welcomed addition. It's really difficult not to celebrate by jumping in the crowd. Overall, the new celebrations are beautifully animated. I recommend simply pressing X or A, the standard pass button, to do the randomized and sometimes personalized celebration for players. The animations are so crisp and varied. The awkward knee slide that would slide for about a half inch, then leave the player with their arms outstretched has not reared its ugly head yet. Instead, players will do more realistic slides, jump up and do an uppercut fist bump, and a bunch of other great looking celebrations, more similar to what you'll see players doing in real life. There are other ones that are still in there, like the dead fish jump, but that of course is for fans, because you gotta have your favorites in there. In terms of audio, Martin Tyler and Alan Smith are back and generally have the same recycled dialogue as previous FIFAs. There are some new additions, however, especially when a player is cutting into the box from the wing. This is good since online cutting it into the box from the wing was the only option last year due to the unreliable crossing. I don't mind that there aren't that many new additions since the voiceovers generally get tuned out for the match. I had one anomaly that was amazing, but I have not been able to replicate it since it first happened. I was playing a match with NYCFC and New York Red Bulls in MLS. I was NYCFC as the home team. The Red Bulls keeper was preparing for a goal kick. The crowd began to hum. They got progressively louder until the keeper kicked the ball for a long pass and the crowd erupted into a big shout. It was definitely unexpected and totally awesome, but as I mentioned, I only found that this happened one time. I could not replicate it a second time. I wish that the crowds would do that more. That's always a real fun part of being at a match if you're trying to kind of jeer and razz. So now on to some weird occurrences and concerns. Take this with a grain of salt. None of this could end up being in the final version of the game. This is just how the beta looked, so don't take this too much to heart, but these are just some things I noticed. There were some strange happenings while playing the beta, some other concerns in relation to balancing, etc. In one instance, I committed a penalty kick, but it was especially soft in terms of a penalty to concede. My defender got a foot on the ball, and I didn't even knock over the opposing player. This may be an attempt by EA to add obstruction-type penalties, which would actually be a welcome addition. It would certainly require a bit more tweaking than instances that I've seen it in the beta so far. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but pace may be way OP in FIFA 18, at least at this juncture. Fast players can really blow by defenders easily, counterattacks and threaded through balls are extremely potent and could certainly be abused. Pace could be a problem this year, but of course, the game is bound to undergo changes before release. We'll see when the demo comes out how much this has been adjusted. One thing that they have not changed is when one of your players gets knocked down, they are still eligible to receive a pass. It's frustrating when you are trying to pass to another player, and the ball holder passes to your man on the ground, who of course can't do anything until they get up off the ground. This then leads to a turnover, usually resulting in a dangerous counterattack. I wish they would either prevent the player on the ground from being eligible to receive the pass, or allowing you to kick the ball away while on the ground, but this doesn't happen too often. It's just very frustrating when it does happen. So guys, that is pretty much my overall synopsis of the beta. If you've played the beta and have different opinions or similar opinions, let me know in the comments. And if you have any specific questions about the beta that I didn't answer, feel free to let me know. I'll answer it as soon as I can. Please drop a like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more work in FIFA 18. I didn't post all that much in FIFA 17. I kind of started towards the end of the game, and that was really a proof of concept, seeing if I could do the video editing and all of that stuff. So I will definitely be posting a lot more in FIFA 18. But for now, leave a like and subscribe, letting me know that you want more. Cheers.